What causes those frustrating price hikes at the grocery store and the gas pump? Today, we're tackling the big question: who is to be blamed for inflation? Is it the government, big corporations, global events, or something else? We'll unravel this complex topic in an easy-to-understand way, breaking down the key factors and players involved. By the end of this video, you'll have a clearer picture of what drives inflation and who, if anyone, can be held accountable. Stay with us as we unravel this economic mystery. Introduction to inflation. Inflation is when the cost of goods and services rises over time. Think of it like this. If a loaf of bread costs $1 this year but increases to $1.10 next year, that's inflation at work. It means with the same amount of money, you can buy less than before. This affects our daily lives because everything from groceries to gas gets more expensive, yet our incomes may not increase at the same rate. For example, if your weekly grocery bill was $50, with inflation it might jump to $55 or more, stretching your budget thinner. Historical context. Have you ever wondered how past events have shaped our understanding of inflation? Let's take a quick trip back in time to explore some significant instances of inflation in U.S. history and the valuable lessons they taught us. First, let's go to the post-World War I era, specifically the early 1920s. The U.S. experienced a sharp but brief period of inflation as the economy transitioned from a wartime to a peacetime footing. Prices soared due to a surge in consumer demand and shortages of goods. The lesson: sudden changes in economic conditions can trigger rapid inflation. Fast forward to the 1970s, a decade marked by what's known as a stagflation, a combination of stagnant economic growth and high inflation. Triggered by the oil crisis, where oil prices quadrupled from 1973 to 1974, this period saw inflation rates soar to over 13% by 1979. The cost of living shot up, with prices of everyday items like gasoline and groceries skyrocketing. This era taught us that external shocks, like changes in oil prices, can have a dramatic impact on inflation. More recently, the Great Recession of 2007-2009 and its aftermath reminded us of another lesson. In response to the economic downturn, the Federal Reserve took aggressive action, including cutting interest rates to near zero. While many feared this would lead to high inflation, it remained relatively tame, showing that modern economic tools can be effective in managing inflation. These historical snapshots highlight that inflation is a complex phenomenon, influenced by a variety of factors, both domestic and global. Understanding its history helps us better prepare for its impacts in the future. Government policies. Imagine a giant lever that can control the speed of the economy. This is what government policies are like when it comes to influencing inflation. Let's dive into how government spending, monetary policy, taxation, and regulations in the U.S. play a pivotal role in either fueling or taming inflation. First, government spending. When the government spends more, it injects money into the economy, boosting demand for goods and services. For example, the significant stimulus packages released during the COVID-19 pandemic, such as the CARES Act in 2020, which provided approximately $2.2 trillion in economic relief, temporarily increased consumer spending. However, too much spending can lead to too much money chasing too few goods, a classic recipe for inflation. Next is monetary policy, primarily managed by the Federal Reserve. By adjusting interest rates and controlling the money supply, the Fed influences inflation. Lower interest rates make borrowing cheaper, encouraging spending and investment, but can also lead to inflation if overdone. For instance, in the early 2000s, the Fed kept interest rates low to stimulate the economy, inadvertently contributing to the housing bubble. Taxation and regulatory measures also have a significant impact. Higher taxes can reduce disposable income, slowing down spending and inflation. Conversely, lower taxes can boost spending and potentially inflation. Regulations can either increase costs for businesses, leading to higher prices, or make markets more efficient, reducing inflationary pressures. For example, environmental regulations can increase production costs, affecting prices, These tools illustrate how government policies are a balancing act. Too much intervention can stoke inflation, but too little can lead to economic stagnation. The key lesson? Managing an economy is a delicate dance, with every policy decision impacting the complex web of inflation. Global events. Imagine a world where borders blur and events thousands of miles away ripple into your daily life. This is not fiction, but a reality in our interconnected global economy. Global events such as wars and pandemics have profound impacts on inflation, affecting everything from the price of bread to the cost of a car. Let's explore how these international incidents shape the economic landscape. Wars are major disruptors. Take, for instance, the oil crises of the 1970s, triggered by conflicts in the Middle East. The significant reduction in oil supply led to skyrocketing fuel prices worldwide, causing a surge in overall inflation. This example shows how conflict in one region can affect global resource availability and prices, leading to inflation in various countries. Pandemics, like the recent COVID-19 crisis, are another major factor. The pandemic caused unprecedented disruptions in global supply chains, leading to shortages of goods ranging from electronics to groceries. As a result, prices for these goods increased sharply. For example, during the pandemic, the cost of electronics went up due to a shortage of semiconductors, a key component affected by factory shutdowns in Asia. Global trade and supply chains also play a crucial role. In today's globalized economy, a disruption in one part of the world can lead to a domino effect elsewhere. For example, a natural disaster in a region that produces a key component for manufacturing can delay production worldwide, reducing supply and increasing prices. These instances highlight how global events and interconnected economies contribute to inflation. From wars affecting resource availability to pandemics disrupting supply chains, the world's economic tapestry is delicately interwoven. Understanding these dynamics is crucial in grasping how global events miles away can impact the prices in our local stores. Market dynamics. Imagine a bustling marketplace where the hustle and bustle of buyers and sellers determine the price of every item on sale. This scene is a perfect metaphor for understanding market dynamics and their role in inflation. Let's explore how the forces of supply and demand, along with corporate pricing strategies, drive the ebb and flow of prices in the U.S. market. Supply and demand are the fundamental forces driving market prices. When demand for a product exceeds supply, prices rise. Conversely, if supply exceeds demand, prices fall. For instance, during the 2020 pandemic, the demand for home office equipment like webcams surged, outstripping supply and causing prices to spike. On the other hand, the rise of renewable energy sources has begun to lower demand for coal, leading to a drop in its price. Corporate pricing strategies also play a crucial role. Companies often adjust prices in response to market conditions. For example, during times of high demand, businesses might raise prices to maximize profits, a strategy known as price skimming. Alternatively, companies might lower prices to outcompete rivals or clear excess stock, a strategy known as penetration pricing. Moreover, corporations might use dynamic pricing, changing prices based on real-time demand. A classic example is airline tickets. Prices fluctuate based on demand, time of booking, and other factors. In addition, the rise of e-commerce and online shopping platforms has given companies unprecedented data to tailor pricing strategies. They can adjust prices on the fly, responding to market changes more rapidly than ever before. These market dynamics illustrate how supply, demand, and corporate strategies collectively influence the prices of goods and services, impacting inflation. Understanding these principles helps us better comprehend why prices change and how they are a reflection of the continuous interaction between consumers and businesses in the market. Consumer behavior. Imagine every dollar you spend as a vote, influencing the economy's direction. This is the power of consumer behavior, a key driver in the world of inflation. In the U.S., how people choose to spend their money can significantly impact inflation rates. Let's unravel this intriguing aspect of economics. Consumer spending habits directly affect inflation. When consumers spend more, demand for goods and services increases, potentially driving prices up. For example, during holiday seasons like Christmas, increased spending can lead to higher prices due to the surge in demand for products like toys and electronics. On the flip side, the psychology behind inflation expectations is equally influential. If consumers expect prices to rise in the future, they may spend more now, further accelerating inflation. This was evident during periods of economic uncertainty, like the 2008 financial crisis, where fears of future inflation led to increased current spending in sectors like real estate and durable goods. Conversely, if consumers anticipate a decrease in prices, they might delay purchases, leading to reduced demand and potentially lower prices, a situation termed deflationary expectations. Consumer behavior in the U.S. plays a crucial role in shaping inflation. From seasonal spending surges to psychological expectations, the collective actions of consumers are a powerful force in the economy. Central banks and monetary policy? Think of a central bank as an economy's pilot, skillfully steering the plane through the ups and downs of inflation. In the U.S., the Federal Reserve, the Fed, plays this crucial role. Let's uncover how the Fed uses monetary policy and interest rates to maintain economic stability. The Fed controls inflation primarily through monetary policy, which involves managing the nation's money supply and setting interest rates. Lowering interest rates makes borrowing cheaper, encouraging businesses and consumers to spend and invest more. This stimulates economic growth but can also lead to inflation if overdone. Conversely, raising interest rates makes borrowing more expensive, slowing down spending and investment, thereby cooling off inflation. For example, in response to the 2008 financial crisis, the Fed slashed interest rates to near zero to stimulate the economy. This move helped avert a deeper recession, but also raised concerns about potential inflation. Similarly, in periods of high inflation, like the early 1980s, the Fed raised interest rates dramatically, which slowed the economy but successfully curbed inflation. These actions highlight the delicate balance the Fed must maintain, stimulating the economy without triggering runaway inflation. It's a challenging task, requiring careful analysis and timely decision-making to ensure economic stability. Inflation, like a complex puzzle, requires a multifaceted approach to solve. While there's no one-size-fits-all solution, certain strategies can help manage and reduce inflation. Let's explore some of these potential solutions. Monetary policy adjustment. Central banks, like the Federal Reserve in the U.S., play a pivotal role. By increasing interest rates, the Fed can make borrowing more expensive, which typically reduces spending and cools down the economy. This approach was effectively used in the early 1980s to tame high inflation. Fiscal responsibility. Government spending influences inflation. Reducing government deficits through spending cuts or increased taxes can lessen inflationary pressures. However, this needs to be balanced carefully to avoid slowing down the economy too much. Supply chain improvement. Strengthening and diversifying supply chains can reduce the impact of global events on inflation. For example, developing local sources for key materials can lessen dependence on international suppliers, reducing vulnerability to global disruptions. Regulatory reforms. Streamlining. Regulations can lower the cost of doing business, enabling companies to offer products and services at lower prices. For instance, easing regulations in sectors like energy can increase production and reduce costs. Wage and price controls. In extreme cases, governments can implement wage and price controls to cap the rise in prices and wages. However, this is a controversial approach as it can lead to shortages and reduced economic growth. Encouraging competition. Promoting competition among businesses can help keep prices down. When companies compete, they often find more efficient ways to operate, which can lead to lower prices for consumers. Consumer education. Educating consumers about inflation and budgeting can help them make informed spending decisions, which can indirectly influence market dynamics and inflation. Each of these solutions comes with its own set of challenges and trade-offs. The key is finding the right balance to effectively manage inflation without hindering economic growth. Before we wrap up, a quick reminder. If you found our discussion on inflation insightful, don't forget to hit that like button. It really supports our channel. Also, consider subscribing for more content like this. We love bringing you informative and engaging videos, and your subscription helps us keep doing just that. Got thoughts or questions about today's topic? We'd love to hear from you, so please leave your comments below. Share your perspectives, experiences, or any queries you might have. And if you think this video could benefit others, please share it with your friends and family. Your shares help us reach a wider audience and keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you in our next video.